Hello there, Reddit enthusiasts, and welcome to Woven Webs. Today we have a post in the relationships subreddit category by Apocalypse. She writes, "No card from my in-laws regarding a death. I'm a 30-year-old woman, and my in-laws are in their 60s. They didn't send a card or flowers when my 53-year-old dad died suddenly. Am I overreacting?" And the background is, I've been married to my husband now for 6 years. He's 31. I'm not particularly close with my in-laws as we have different personalities, but we live in their hometown, which is 1,500 miles away from my hometown and my family, so I see my in-laws often enough. Now, about a month ago, my father fell very ill. It was a huge shock as he'd been very healthy beforehand. I took my 1-year-old and flew home the day I got the call, and stayed for 2 weeks to help my mom handle things. Unfortunately, the doctors gave my dad 3 to 6 months to live. So I got him set up with hospice and spent time saying goodbye to him. It was the hardest 2 weeks of my life. My in-laws were aware of what was happening as they were there the day I got the call. Now, I didn't receive a text or call the entire 2 weeks, but whatever. It was easier not to deal with any added stress. Now, a week after I returned home, as in home where I live with my husband, I got the call that my father had passed away. Now, obviously, I was devastated because they'd given him a few months to live, and I wasn't able to make it back to see him one last time. I spent that day crying and packing, and my father-in-law came to help me watch the baby. My husband, our baby, and I flew home the very next day so I could help my mom plan the funeral and handle things. A lot of people sent flowers to the service, and a lot more people sent cards. And I thought it was the norm that my in-laws would send flowers, but we didn't receive anything, not even a card. I didn't get a text or a phone call, no sorry for your loss, nothing. So, we're home now, and he still hasn't reached out beyond a quick sorry for your loss, hope your trip went well. That's not about the money, but I'm hurt that I've been their daughter-in-law for 6 years, and they couldn't be bothered to acknowledge the death of my dad. This is my first loss, my very first experience with grief, and I'm not okay. I'd like to confront them. My husband never will. He never has when we've had problems in the past. But I want to make sure I'm not overreacting. Now, should they have sent flowers? Do I seem greedy or selfish for hoping they would have? And now for the comments. Sadder, older, wiser writes in, "It sounds like they did acknowledge your loss, or at least one of them did. Some people don't send cards and flowers. They show they care in other ways, like watching your baby so you could pack. When someone dies, we have so many tough emotions, and it can be very easy to let some of our anger focus on small, manageable things, like being mad at your in-laws that they didn't send flowers. Try not to cultivate that anger. I'm very sorry for your loss. I lost my dad a couple of years ago, and even though he was very old and very ill, it was very hard. You should have had your dad longer." And in response to that post, Altruistic Finding 67 writes, "This is such a wise response, and I hope you're able to take it to heart. It's so easy to fall into this kind of anger, because it's so hard to look the real cause of your grief in the face. I lost my dad at about your age under similar circumstances, and it was devastating. Check out The Dinner Party. It's a grief organization for people in their 20s and 30s, and it helped me tremendously. And let this be a lesson for how to handle your friend's grief in the future. We remember the ones who showed up for us." Continuing along with the response, Blondie185 writes in, "And maybe send your father-in-law and mother-in-law a card thanking them for their thoughtful support." Organic Goose 6716 writes, "My in-laws sent flowers with a simple note attached, and I was furious and threw the flowers. I just lost my dad, and they sent me some lousy flowers that said, 'Sorry for your loss.' I was so upset. How could their world keep turning when mine had suddenly stopped? How dare they? I would even get so mad when people would tell me, 'I'm sorry,' or 'I'm sorry for your loss.' I felt like those words were so meaningless and hollow. Grief is funny that way. There's so many stages of grief, and they all come at different times, and it's always different for everyone." Normal Boys 1 writes in, "Did they help take care of your kids? Did they send food after you're back? Maybe they're not the sane type, and they do it with action." And here's a wise response. Elvado Mascarado writes in, "Have you considered that you married your husband and not his parents? It would be nice if they were closer to you, but they're not actually doing anything wrong by just letting you two live your lives and intervening mostly only when asked. Your idea of what family is might be healthy and nice, but it doesn't sound like you've considered that family dynamics are different for everyone, and some people don't impose unspoken responsibilities to extended family, nor do they feel responsible for extended family. Casey Comments writes in, "It seems like you're holding on to hope that they will be the type of in-laws you want and need, but they simply aren't. I had to learn this lesson too, but I gave up on it early on. I'm just happy with my spouse, and anything from his parents, it's just a bonus." Kay Career writes in for the final comment, "You just have to realize that their family is very different from yours. It sounds like you're from different parts of the country, so it might just be a culture clash. Or some people are just rude or thoughtless. Not even thoughtless in an asshole way, but like they just don't think of anyone else. Like it doesn't occur to them to think of someone else. To me, it's insane. I'm Southern, my husband is Yankee, and his parents are weird. They're not assholes at all, and I love them, but they're weird. And he didn't realize that until he moved away, and he was like, wait a minute. Just complete opposite ends of the spectrum. You have poor Southerners on my side and upper middle class Yankees on his. Just know, we're 180 degrees from each other. I'm blessed that my in-laws are very nice and have accepted me as a daughter, and I'm sorry that you've not had the same luck. Like, my people would be sending flowers, calling, taking your kids against your will because you need rest, making lasagnas, organizing food trains, mowing your yard. But not everyone is like that, and it's a hard pill to swallow when you expect that and you want it. I'm sorry. You married your husband, and it sounds like your marriage is going well. Is having great in-laws even close to a deal breaker? If not, don't stir this pot. Just give up. Maybe even move closer to your own family or just pretend like your in-laws live somewhere else. You said you've been trying so hard. Stop it. They don't care. They don't want your efforts. Be it because they're weird, antisocial, assholes, or maybe they don't like you, but for some reason, it's not happening, and you can't make it happen. Trying to make it happen is making it worse, because all you're doing is getting your feelings hurt. All right, Reddit listeners, what do you think? Is this lady wrong? For me, I definitely would advise her against speaking to her in-laws. I think she got a lot of really good advice here, but tell me what you think, and I appreciate you listening.